it seems awfully interesting to me that all of a sudden.
Hey, listen, if you get your home insurance directly from one of the major insurance...
This is interesting. Every day is a new adventure, especially when you have no
insurance companies, well, then you're literally pouring money.
All of a sudden, it seems awfully interesting to me that all of a sudden this deal fell apart, right? Like, I thought this deal was done, then he met with Democrats, then the deal wasn't done. I mean, make of that as what you will. But then you have, Ukrainian leadership. This guy is a top advisor to Zelensky's chief of staff. He reposted a cartoon framing Trump and JD Vance as Putin's henchmen and claims that the Oval Office situation was a planned ambush. These people are the ones demanding our money. So here's Sergei Leshchenko posting this, saying that Putin's holding Zelensky and Trump and JD Vance are beating him up. It was a plan. It was an ambush. Also tweeting that. Very, very interesting. These are the people that want our money. These are the people that want American sons and daughters to die defending them because they want to get into NATO. And it is ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous to me. And then CNN this morning, CNN this morning had to admit that the media keeps saying, oh my God, nobody likes how Trump's handling it. Well, let's see how the media thinks. What even CNN admits is true about what the American people think about how Trump is handling the Ukraine war.
Well, I think the easiest way we can kind of just ask this is, do Americans like the way that Trump's handling his job compared to how they felt about Joe Biden? So this is the net proof already. You look at Joe Biden back in 2024, he was 22 points underwater. Holy cow.
Yeah,
look at Donald
holy
Trump.
cow.
It's just a different planet entirely. I mean, the gulf between these two is wider than the Gulf of America or Mexico, depending on which side of the aisle you stand on.
It's the Gulf of America, no matter what side of the aisle.
He's at +2. So look, at this particular point, Americans are giving Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. He's doing considerably better than Joe Biden was doing on the handling of the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And so on this simple question, I think Americans are saying, okay, Donald Trump's doing all right on this.
What about specifically on how they feel about bringing the war to an end?
Yeah, okay. So, questions on this can be quite complicated, but I think this kind of gets at sort of where the American trend line is. Americans on the Russia-Ukraine war want a quick end of the war, but Russia keeps its captured land. Look at this. 50%. Bare majority come in here. Support Ukraine's right to fight, even if it means a long war. That's a 48. This is very, very clear. But the trend line on this...
Ukraine isn't fighting, though. We are, but I digress.
Question is so important because that one quick end of the war, look at this. You go back to August of 2022, it was at 31%. Now we're at 50%. I mean, that is a rocket ship upwards in terms of the American, even if it means a long war. That's a 48. This is very, very clear. But the trend line on this...
Ukraine isn't fighting, though. We are, but I digress.
Question is so important because that one quick end of the war, look at this. You go back to August of 2022, it was at 31%. Now we're at 50%. I mean, that is a rocket ship upwards in terms of the Americans who want a quick end to the war. Even if...
It's not that we want a quick end to it. We're done paying for it. Ukraine can fight all they want. Ukraine can fight as long as Europe wants to pay for it. But the American taxpayers have had enough of it. And now, you see, as Trump suspends military aid, what are the chokeholds on Ukraine? What do you mean, what are the chokeholds? They don't have any money. Trump condemns Zelensky remarks that the war's end is far away. The statement by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying that a deal to end the war with Russia was very far away was on a furious response from Donald Trump. America will not put up with this.
It's just a different plan.
The media keeps saying, oh my God, nobody likes how Trump's handling it. Well, let's see how the media thinks. What even CNN admits is true about what the American people think about how Trump is handling the Ukraine war.
Well, I think the easiest way we can kind of just ask this is, do Americans like the way that Trump's...
Oval Office situation was a planned ambush. These people are the ones demanding our money. So here's Sergei Leshchenko. It was a plan. It was an ambush. Also tweeting that. Very, very interesting. These are the people that want our money. These are the people that want American sons and daughters to die defending them because they want to get into NATO. And it is ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous to me. And tweeting are the ones in a cartoon framing Trump. But then you have, I thought this deal was done. Then he met with Democrats. Then the deal wasn't done. I mean, make of that as what you will. But then you have, all of a sudden.
The Logan Act, Alex, is their courts. So this was a massive setup, and I think it backfired badly, certainly with the American people. The real key thing here, Alex, is that Attorney General Pam Bondi should appoint a special counsel to investigate whether these Democrats have violated the Logan Act.
Right? I mean, yeah, good question. It seems awfully interesting to me that all of a sudden, it seems awfully interesting to me that all of a sudden this deal fell apart. Right? I thought this deal was done, then he met with Democrats, then the deal wasn't done. I mean, make of that as what you will. But then you have, Ukrainian leadership.
Oversight. I watched this. Have your own.
An attempt to derail Trump's peace initiative. Pretty interesting.
Anthony Blinken.
It's not that we want a quick end here. For it. Ukraine can fight all they want. As military aid, what are the chokeholds on Ukraine? What do you mean, what are the chokeholds? They don't have any money. Saying that a deal to end the war with Russia was very far away is on a furious response from Donald Trump. America will not put up with this. Trump condemns Zelensky remarks that the war's end is far away. A statement by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky saying that a deal to end the war with Russia was very far away is on a furious response from Donald Trump. America will not put up with this for much longer. U.S. President sent a social media post before accusing Zelensky of not wanting peace. A summit of mostly European leaders in London on Sunday agreed a 4-point plan to guarantee Ukraine's defense in the event of a peace deal with Russia. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of a show of strength against Russia. What were they thinking? Trump said. Apparently referring to the summit held 2 days after his fiery clash with Zelensky at the Oval Office. The summit hosted by UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer was intended as a show of support for Ukraine and an attempt to reduce differences between Western countries over Ukraine. Britain and France said they were working on a European-led solution to the conflict. Cool. You should take over the bill for it too then. After the meeting, Zelensky said the deal to end the war between Ukraine was still very, very far away. He added that he expected the U.S. to continue backing Ukraine despite his own fraught relationship with Trump. I believe that Ukraine has a strong enough partnership with the United States of America. Zelensky said on Sunday, I assure you it does not. Monday, Trump responded statement by reiterating his view that Zelensky stood in the way of peace negotiations. This is the worst statement that could have been made by Zelensky, and America will not put up with this for much longer. As I was saying, this guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing. He wrote on Truth Social. During a news briefing later Monday, Trump once again said that Zelensky should be more appreciative of the aid that he's received from the U.S. in the 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I don't know if it's been a full-scale invasion. During the confrontation from the cameras, we know everything that happened there. After the London summit, UK and France suggested a European coalition of the willing to defend Ukraine. Do you know who the coalition of the willing was? The aid that he's received from the U.S. in the 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. I don't know if it's been a full-scale invasion. During the confrontation from the cameras, we know everything that happened there. After the London summit, UK and France suggested a European coalition of the willing to defend Ukraine. Do you know who the coalition of the willing was, by the way? That's the exact same language they used when justifying invading Iraq. Exact same. I mean, this is bonkers. So, of course, that led to last night, Trump pausing all military aid to Ukraine days after the blow. Although President Biden suspended deliveries, this is bonkers. So, of course, that led to last night, Trump pausing. Exact same. I mean, this is bonkers. So, of course, they used when justifying invading Iraq. Exact same. By the way, after the London, that's the same language they used when justifying invading Iraq. Enough. And if we move against Ukraine, essentially acts as after the blow. Although President Biden suspended deliveries of 2,000 pound bombs to Israel amid humanitarian concerns in Gaza, Trump's move against Ukraine essentially acts as a final ultimatum to Zelensky. It's not a move against Ukraine. The American people have had enough. President Trump has had enough. And if we go down to these comments, right? Good. Hey, Mr. President, end him. Why can't people understand that Trump isn't a career politician who's been molded to fall in like the global agenda of a one world government? I mean, every comment in here is supporting Trump. Enough of this fake, fatigue-clad, arrogant idiot. Libs can keep Biden stooge for themselves, and this is how you end the war. Right. Essentially, this war has been all about profit from various sides, and now Donald Trump keeps the global agenda of a one world government. I mean, every comment in here is supporting Trump. Enough of this fake, fatigue-clad, arrogant idiot. Libs can keep Biden stooge for themselves. President, end him. Why can't people understand that Trump isn't a career politician who's been molded to fall in like the global agenda of a one world government? I mean, every comment in here is supporting Trump. That Trump isn't a career politician who's been molded to fall in like the global agenda of a one world government. I mean, every comment in here is supporting Trump. Enough of this fake, fatigue-clad, arrogant idiot. Libs can keep Biden stooge for themselves, and this is how you end the war. Right. Essentially, this war has been all about profit. Fake, fatigue-clad, arrogant idiot. Libs can keep Biden stooge for themselves, and this is how you end the war. Right. Essentially, this war has been all about profit from various sides, and now Donald Trump has had enough of it. You know, here's what J.D. Vance said too.
Message to Ukrainians, by the way, to President Zelensky is: when you've lost Lindsey Graham, that means you need to come to the negotiating table and recognize Donald Trump is the only game in town. He's the only person who I think has a meaningful plan to save that country. But Sean, here's the problem with the Europeans, and a lot of these guys are our friends, they're our allies. We, of course, the president has a great relationship with a lot of European heads of state, and so do I. But they need to be realistic. And the craziest part about this, Sean, is that sometimes you'll have European heads of state who, in public, will puff up their chest and say, "We're in it with President Zelensky for the next 10 years," and then in private, they'll pick up the phone and say, "This can't go on forever. He has to come to the negotiating table." So I honestly don't care what the Europeans say in public. What I care is what they say in private. Right. What they need to be saying to President Zelensky is, "This can't go on forever. The bloodshed, the killing, the economic devastation, it's making everyone worse off."
And absolutely. And that's what America's had enough of. Donald Trump has had enough of. Everybody supports this. I mean, it sucks. You know, I don't want more soldiers to lose their ability.
Are you a type 2 diabetic taking medication and it seems as if doctors have given up hope on you?
What's up, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quarter again. AOC seems pretty nervous. She's acting tough out in front of the public, but she's nervous because it looks like the Attorney General may be looking at charges potentially for her helping illegals evade ICE. This has been an issue that has been bubbling up, and both sides of the aisle are pretending like it's a massive victory. Pam Bondi, I will tell you this much. She alleged this morning that she had received the motherload of files, so to speak. If that's true, I would be extremely happy. Prosecuting AOC for this would also make me extremely happy. It would go a long way to her, for her to kind of redeem her reputation. If she, it would go a long way to her, for her to kind of redeem her reputation. If she were, it's true. I would be extremely happy. Prosecuting AOC for this would also make me extremely happy. It would go a long way to her, for her to kind of redeem her reputation. If she were to prosecute AOC over this, she did a nervous interview with NPR to redeem her reputation. Extremely happy. It would go a long way to her, for her to kind of redeem her reputation. If she were to prosecute AOC over this, she did a nervous interview with NPR over the weekend, and now Pam Bondi is apparently considering this. She did a nerve. If she were to redeem it, her to kind of redeem, do not redeem it, her reputation. If she were to prosecute AOC over this, she did a nervous interview with NPR over the weekend, and now Pam Bondi is apparently happy. Prosecuting AOC for this would also make me extremely happy. It would go a long way to her, for her to kind of redeem her reputation. If she were to prosecute AOC over this, she did be extremely happy. Prosecuting AOC for this would also make me extremely happy. It would go a long way to her, for her to kind of redeem her reputation. If she were to prosecute AOC over this, she did a nervous interview with NPR over the weekend, and now Pam Bondi is apparently considering federal charges against AOC for helping migrants evade ICE. Absolute bombshell. Perhaps she should have considered using some protection, like private internet access. Quick, check out this word from our sponsor. Shout out to this video sponsor, private internet access. Look, if you aren't using a VPN yet, you're completely under service location. That access also have an absolute charges against her for helping immigrants evade ICE. Now, she went on some NPR show this morning, claiming that the American people vehemently opposed Elon cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the federal government. Poll shows Doge is extremely popular by huge margins. She also went on to talk about illegals, which is bonkers. AOC blames Republicans, for the open border and the flood of illegals in our country over the past 4 years, and slams the Laken Riley Act. Border crossings are down over 90% under Trump. Biden purposely kept our borders open. She's starting to make Jasmine Crockett look smart. I would agree with that.
Part of your problem.
I mean, I guess my question would be, what does the word problem mean?
People voting
Did she just literally do, well, I guess it depends what your definition of is.
to the other side and not to you, feeling that Democrats are not serious about the issue in ways that concern them.
I think that we have a problem on immigration because of the lack of progress that we've had on this issue. And as we know, Republicans weaponize that lack of progress. Of course, there was famously a bipartisan bill last year that the Republican majority in the Senate and also in the House were willing.
Yeah. Bowman reached out to the Department of Justice to seek guidance on whether AOC was what she was doing constituted a crime. She said that she was not heard from the DOJ, but she plans on reaching out to inquire about the matter. When asked what she would ask the DOJ, she said there is a member of the Trump administration who is threatening and seeks to open inquiry. Are you going to do it? Now, I can't imagine that she would have the access or rights to demand knowing whether or not they're investigating her.
My job is to additional protections against illegal search and seizure.
Attorney General Pam Bondi is apparently moving to take action against Representative Ocasio-Cortez for informing illegal immigrants on how they can further skirt U.S. law. Bondi is reportedly preparing to file federal charges immigrants on how to evade immigration and customs enforcement amid nationwide crackdown on illegal immigration. Bowman said he wanted Bondi to issue formal guidance on whether Ocasio-Cortez's action equated to obstruction in the eyes of Trump's DOJ. I actually think that's a fine thing to do. Holman's just saying, hey, I need to know, is this happening? Is this, did she break a law? I think charges for said law. If she did that, she used to that. Response to the Trump administration is a stark contrast to our party has now been handling Trump 2.0. Allows you to protect an unlimited amount of devices all at the same time. So the American people vehemently opposed Elon cutting waste, fraud, and abuse from the federal government. Poll shows Doge is extremely popular by huge margins. She also went on to talk about illegals, which is bonkers. AOC blames Republicans, for the open border and the flood of illegals in our country over the past 4 years, and slams the Laken Riley Act. Border crossings are down over 90% under Trump. Biden see that censorship website after getting shut down, so to speak. If that's true, Pam Bondi, I will tell you this much. She alleged this morning that she had received a motherload of files, so to speak. If that's true, helping illegals evade ICE. This has been an issue that, because it looks like the Attorney General may be looking at charges potentially for she's acting tough out. What's up, everyone? Jeremy here from the Twitter again. AOC seems pretty nervous. She's acting tough out in front of the public, but she's nervous because it looks like the Attorney General. AOC seems pretty nervous. She's acting tough out in front of the public, but she's nervous because it looks like the Attorney General. Well, it looks like YouTube star Jake Paul, things are starting to catch up with him. When you have large sums of money, there always seems to be this degradation of one's ability to understand right from wrong. I've always been a firm believer that money doesn't really change people. It just shows you who they really are. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Jake Paul. I've been covering him only when he crosses the long arm of the law, including his idiotic participation in absolutely, by the way, irrefutably looting items. I think it was a bottle of liquor he clearly took, and he was charged for that, rightfully so. But there's actually other stuff going on behind the scenes. There's actually an ongoing federal investigation into Jake Paul And I think that there are several things that might be a part of it. And you'll let me know, I suppose. I don't expect any Jake Paulers on this video, but I think he's run his course. It's time for him to sail off into the sunset. But nonetheless, the FBI this morning, though, executed a raid on the Calabasas home of YouTube star Jake Paul on Wednesday morning, Fox confirmed. Now, this alone would probably be enough for YouTube to at least demonetize somebody. Now, I still, as unlikable as Jake is, you still have to give him the benefit of the doubt, at least in this case. We don't know what they're looking for, although I have a suspicion. We don't know any of the evidence here. So regardless of how much you dislike someone, you've got to have some principles. Raquel Dalbarius, a public affairs officer with the FBI, Ali, confirmed that a federal search warrant, that's federal, by the way, was executed at the popular YouTuber celebrity residence in connection with an ongoing investigation. However, the warrant affidavit is sealed, and therefore no additional information will be available to the public as to why authorities were interested. Maybe they were looking for items brought back from his raid, or from his peaceful protesting. Paul 23. Imagine me 23, man. You've got it all. Can you just not be a total idiot? Yeah, no, I heard you guys say it. No, he can't. Paul 23 operates one of the more popular YouTube channels with 20 million subs. Not really anymore. He's famous in part for documenting his life on video, which recently landed him in hot water in Arizona when he was charged with a criminal trespass and unlawful assembly after he joined a group of looters at Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall amid a slew of protests throughout the country. Yes, we know this. Following these and the looting that occurred in the evening of May 30th at Scottsdale Fashion Square Mall, they brought up Paul on charges. Well, our investigation has revealed that Paul was present after the protest was declared an unlawful assembly and the rioters were ordered to leave by police. Paul also unlawfully entered and remained inside the mall when it was closed. As a result, Paul had been charged with criminal trespass and unlawful assembly, both misdemeanor charges. However, the FBI was unable to confirm if the raid on his home had anything to do with the charges he faced from his involvement in the mall incident, or if it stems from something completely different. Now, it's probably not that. Now, it's probably not that.
Holy, thank you, Jesus. Where's the guy? Jesus Christ, there's okay.
Well, it looks like YouTube star Jake Paul, things are starting to social distancing. I don't care. What a man does in his own home is his right, we'll say, at a party hosted by YouTuber Jake Paul. The LA Sheriff's Department has opened an investigation following a complaint filed. The woman claims that she was given something and then blacked out at Jake Paul's party.
When the road gets rough and the burden.
Unbelievable. If you needed more info as to the racist belief of one, well, Ben Shapiro, look no further. He's calling for the pardon of Derek Chauvin, the man who murdered and was convicted by juries of his peers of that murder against Mr. George Floyd. Here it is.
If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime, was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime. Was in fact the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not, in fact, commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. Talk about delivering pardons. President Trump, I think, should really seriously consider pardoning on federal charges, he can't pardon on state charges, Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of the murder of George Floyd. Talk about
Unbelievable. If you needed more info as to the racist belief of one, well, Ben Shapiro, look no further. He's calling for the pardon of Derek Chauvin, the man who murdered and was convicted by a jury of his peers of that murder against Mr. George Floyd. There is.
If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. But when it came to BLM, the inciting event for the BLM riots that caused $2 billion in property damage in the United States and set America's race relations on their worst footing in my lifetime was, in fact, the railroading of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd. The evidence demonstrates that Derek Chauvin did not, in fact, commit murder of George Floyd. George Floyd was high on fentanyl. He had a significant pre-existing heart condition. Talk about delivering pardons. President Trump, I think, should really seriously consider pardoning on federal charges, he can't pardon on state charges, Derek Chauvin, who was convicted of the murder of George Floyd. As I said, we will be covering this pretty extensively in the coming weeks. Right now, you should go to pardonderek.com and sign our petition asking President Trump to grant justice to Officer Derek Chauvin.
Now, who is backing the play? Well, Elon Musk, who decided to repost this in solidarity with such an offensive thought. To pardon a man who murdered a black man while being recorded doing so. Sharon, just when you thought it could not go any lower, they figure out how to knock the bottom out of low and go even lower than that. What's for you?
These are punks and fools. They're agitators and gaslighters. That's all this is about. With everything else going on in the world today, including the price of avocados that are sky high, it will go higher. This is what they want to do. They hate black people that much. Rather, they're so insecure by the black man in particular. A lot's been said about black women, but I want to be clear. There's no reason to hate a black man this much unless you are insecure. And we can get into some of the reasons, though some are probably not fit for the show, but they're real nonetheless, Doc.
Yeah, and to the black Republicans, to what I would deem as runaways of the White House during Black History Month, proclaiming their love and appreciation for this. To what I would deem as runaways of the White House during Black History Month, proclaiming their love and appreciation for this.
I don't understand, but if we was found not to kill him, I don't. I don't get it. If he was
Would be leader. There was a time we were all on the same page about the death, murder, George Floyd. Hell, white suburban women were on the same page about the murder of George Floyd. I wonder what you're saying now, given the fact that Shapiro and also the current acting president of the United States, Elon Musk, is saying that this murder needs now have a pardon for the man who committed it. It is insane. We shall bring you updates as they come. This news is developing.
So my limitless problem finally went away, and what I did was ridiculous. My urologist told me to throw all my blue pills away and just do this simple blood flow fix you recently learned at a conference. I even thought about changing urologists when he told me this. It seemed like he was crazy until I saw my tool. I even thought about changing urologists when he told me this. It seemed like he was crazy until I saw my tool.
You're not going crazy. You're going crazy. Stabbed in prison, year ago, started to global bully. I don't understand. Did they find that he's? How come he's saying that? The evidence says he didn't. Come on. I don't understand. I don't get it. What did he say he wasn't? I don't understand why they said that.
Breaking story overnight, Derek Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, attacked in a federal prison, and he was seriously injured. ABC's Jacqueline Lee has more on this story. Good morning, Jacqueline.
AJ, good morning. George Floyd's death obviously rocked the country in 2020, sparked nationwide protests about police brutality and race relations. And now sources say the man at the center of it all, found guilty of murdering Floyd, is in the hospital. This morning, 2020, sparked nationwide protests about police brutality and race relations. And now sources say the man at the center of it all, found guilty of murdering Floyd, is in the hospital. This morning.
Asians always. It's in Asian. Crazy. Target for sequel.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy from The Quartering, and some interesting news coming out of Marvel. And while Hollywood news is pretty sparse right now, with most studios shut down and theaters across the country not open, there's been a few little spicy nuggets. And apparently, there were some statements made about Asian people in terms of Marvel. I don't believe them. It could be true, but it's being widely reported, so it's interesting to see. So this is on NBC News. Marvel's Daredevil Asian problem is really Hollywood's bigger Asian problem. I don't know where this is going, but it seems dicey. We must stop perpetuating the notion that Asians are inherently foreign, or that and allow them to live on screen as we do in life, fully and unapologetically. What? What? Last weekend during an online panel focused on the series Daredevil, actor Peter Shinkoda said former Marvel TV executive Jeff Loeb explicitly told writers of the superhero series not to expand Shinkoda's character because, quote, nobody cares about Chinese people and Asian people. First of all, I should say, if true, obviously a terrible thing to say. Do I believe it was said? No, I don't. I don't believe a Marvel employee, a company that regularly bends the knee to get their films into China, would say something like that. Is it possible? Of course. Is it more likely that maybe a Z-list actor needed to say a little something to get their name in the headline? Well, you'll have to be the judge of that, as certainly people have come out against it. Neither Loeb nor Marvel, I'm saying that right, I guess it doesn't matter, nor Marvel have responded to the claim, but Season 1 showrunner Stephen Knight tweeted, no one ever tried to get me to downplay any of my characters in Season 1. That, however, did not address how Nobu's arc in Season 2. So interesting. So nobody told him. Now, of course, everybody could be lying because, headlines are important. But it just seems so weird. The idea that you would say nobody cares about Chinese people or Asian people is absurd. First of all, Marvel films have gigantic Asian audiences. This is the first and undeniable fact. Many of their movies will make as much, if not more money, just in China and Japan as they will in the entire United States. To argue that nobody cares about these characters would be coming from a place of absolute willing ignorance. Is it possible? Yes. I don't believe it was said, though. Also, there are many very popular Asian Chinese actors in Hollywood history. Could there be more? Oh, okay, sure. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, these are ones that I think of. But again, this always brings up the argument that more, and we'll get into this with the second article that kind of piggybacks off this, that more diversity is inherently good and less is inherently bad. Now, I'm not against diversity in film, of course. I mean, but could there be more? Oh, okay, sure. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, these are ones that I think of. But again, this always brings up the argument that more, and we'll get into this with the second article that kind of piggybacks off this, that more diversity is inherently good and less is inherently bad. Now, I'm not against diversity in film, of course. I mean, yeah, you want to have...
Hey guys, Toby Mathis here, and question I get all the time is, how do I make my personal assets invisible? Well, first off, Toby Mathis here, and
films that in many cases, the argument that more, and we'll get into this with the second article that kind of piggybacks off this, that more diversity is inherently good and less is inherently bad. Now, I'm not against diversity in film, of course. I mean, yeah, you want to have films that in many cases represent what people see outside. I think that's just good for immersion and realism. The idea that you'd be in some inner city, or not even an inner city, that's not even fair to say, that more, and we'll get into this with the second article that kind of piggybacks off this, that more diversity is inherently good and less is inherently bad. Now, I'm not against diversity in film, of course. I mean, yeah, but again, this always brings up the argument that more, and we'll get into this with the second article that kind of piggybacks off this, that more diversity is inherently good and less is inherently bad. Now, I'm not against diversity in film, of course. I mean, yeah, you want to have films that in many cases represent what people see outside. I think that's just good for immersion and realism. The idea that you would be in some inner city, or not even an inner city, that's not even fair to say, that you would be in some big city like Los Angeles and only see white people, obviously that's insanity. But I don't think films really do that. The words themselves may be shocking, but I want to be clear. This sentiment is not. Okay, so we can't prove it, but I'm going to go ahead and just pretend this. I'm going to read this article as if it were true. Points out much larger problem, both within Marvel Studios and Hollywood itself, the dehumanization of Asian, in this case specifically East Asian characters, by reducing them to often evil foreignness. Really? I don't know. I legitimately don't know, but where they're from, and maybe they're probably originally from the United States. But do people see Harold and Kumar as evil? Do they see what's the guy from the Hangover films and Community? By reducing them to often evil foreignness. Really? I don't know. I legitimately don't know, but where they're from, and maybe they're probably originally from the United States. But do people see Harold and Kumar as evil? Do they see what's the guy from the Hangover films and Community? Do people see him as inherently evil? I'm asking genuinely because I don't. But again, these people are probably born in the U.S., so maybe they're talking about native born. But even that's I don't know if they're not making that case. Shinkoda appeared in 9 episodes of Daredevil. During the first and second season, he played Nobu Yoshioka. Let's just call him Nobu. Sorry, a villain from the mysterious Asian organization. The hand that, over the course of the interconnected Marvel series Daredevil, Iron Fist, and Defenders emerged as a main threat to New York City. The organization was introduced via Nobu and another Asian villain, Madame Gao. Yet this time, the overall story came to a climax in Defenders, and the Hand's leader, ended up being a white villain played by Sigourney Weaver, a woman. Essentially, Daredevil used Nobu and Madame Gao, to introduce a quote foreign evil, only to give the final villain arc to a white actor. Imagine going through life and thinking like this. Do general audiences actually think this way? I'm legitimately asking. do general audiences look at the skin color of who plays certain characters in movies and project that upon all people in real life of that same skin color? I certainly don't do that, but maybe it's a big problem that I don't know about. This isn't the only time Marvel used an Asian supporting character to accelerate a white hero's journey. In 2016, Doctor Strange filmed by notably whitewashed the character of the Ancient One by casting Tilda Swinton. Oh, wait a second. Wasn't this because the original character was a Tibetan monk and China wouldn't allow that? Isn't that what that was? I could be confusing this character. I really could, but I know that was the case. The most prominent Asian character, Wong, Benedict Wong, also exists solely to help the white hero, Stephen Strange, learn to harness vaguely Asian mystical powers. He coincidentally has no first name, because to have one would give him life unrelated to his Asianness and value too strange. Does anybody know Doctor Strange's first name? Who isn't you go into that movie theater, Doctor Strange. What about Iron Man? He goes by Iron Man. How about the Incredible Hulk's real name? How about Black Widow? How many people know Natasha's real name? This is such a reach. It's such a ridiculous reach to be offended. The same year Marvel TV received backlash for casting a white character as Iron Fist, the superhero essentially receives magical powers from a mystical world of Asian monks. Through the character, though the character was white in the original comics. Oh, okay, so canon says the character's white, but let's ignore that. I want to be offended here. Fans had hope that they would correct the comics' often offensive portrayal of Asians by making the hero himself Asian. Okay, well then Captain Marvel should be a man. Is that what we're going to do? Is that the world you want to live in? I mean, these people need to just get back to work in Hollywood. These people, Hollywood actors, they need to just get back to work. In no scenario do I look at an Asian actor in a movie and think of them as an Asian actor. They're just playing a role. Daredevil actor says the Marvel exec cut his storyline because nobody gives a poop about Asian people. I just don't believe that happened. 800,000, 900,000 views. Actor Peter Shikoda, who played Nobu in Netflix's Daredevil. Is that the world you want to live in? I mean, these people need to just get back to work in Hollywood. Had hope that they would correct the comics' often offensive portrayal of Asians by making the hero himself Asian. Okay, well then Captain Marvel should be a man. Is that what we're going to do? Is that the world portrayal of Asians by making the hero himself Asian? Okay, well then Captain Marvel should be a man. Actor Peter Shikoda, who played Nobu in Netflix's Daredevil, talks about how absolutely appalling. Now, he did say it, and he's going to have to stand by those statements. If it was said, obviously it's hilariously misguided. It just seems so absurd that somebody in modern-day Hollywood would say this. I don't think the Avengers, again, here, Avengers star Anthony Mackie says Marvel's diversity efforts are in no way enough. Well, of course, they will never be enough. And every time somebody goes down this road, I only ask one question. I'm not against diversity in any way. My only question is, what is the correct percentage?
Hey, I got her a little something.
A little something, Dad?
Oh, hi. Walt rolled his 401k accounts into an Empower IRA, and it's grown nicely. So I say, let a Gramps be a Gramps.
Okay, just promise me it doesn't make a lot of noise.
Go, baby, go!
Thanks, Grandpa!
Get good at money so you can be a little bad. Empower.
The world of medicine is forever evolving. That's why Tebra has created the leading practice automation solution to support the connected practice of the future, helping thousands of independent practices bring modernized care to patients everywhere. Tebra.
Nobody's ever really been able to give me that number. What is the correct percentage for each race in Hollywood so that we can actually have a target to aim for? Because I'm a pragmatic person. I hope I'm using that word right. I'm pragmatic, but I'm not very smart. If there is an actual goal to work towards, I think that's a more achievable goal. But just putting out this nebulous more, we want more, that's not going to get anything done. So if you want the problem solved, then you have to give me my quotas, my race quotas, so that we can check films and make sure that we're at the right person. Because we're not going to hire based on who's the best person for the job. With Marvel, I really think most companies, they feel like they're doing what they should be doing. He said, no way, shape, or form is enough. Okay, so why even try? Yeah, anyone who's big in our industry, if they had a party at their house, their party's 98% white. If you go to their office is 98% white. Really? How about Tyler Perry? If Tyler Perry's office 98% white? How about Jordan Peele and the cast of his films, which are exclusively black? I'm not saying that there aren't more. I'm just saying I don't even have to think. You think Spike Lee's parties are mostly white? Maybe. But don't act like there's just literally no everyone's just white in Hollywood. That's absurd. Olivia or Octavia, what's her name? She was in the movie Ma. She's been in a bunch of other really good movies. Famous black actress. Queen Latifah. She's probably not really an actress anymore. Oprah's the richest woman on the planet. I mean, come on, dude. Mackie also gave us out of the Avengers Endgame. I think that if you want to increase diversity in front of the camera or wherever, that's a noble cause. And I also think there are right ways to go about it and there are wrong ways to go about it. Gender bending, wrong way. Race bending, wrong way. Stan Lee's lineup in Marvel Universe is extremely diverse. So start building the stories of these. Wrong way. Race bending, wrong way. Just pause. And I also think there are right ways to go about it and there are wrong ways to go about it. If you want to increase diversity in front of the camera or wherever, that's a noble cause. And I also think there are right ways to go about it and there are wrong ways to go about it. Gender bending, wrong way. Race bending, wrong way. Stan Lee's lineup in the Marvel Universe is extremely diverse to go about it. Gender bending, wrong way. Race bending, wrong way. Stan Lee's lineup in the Marvel Universe is extremely diverse. So start building the stories of these characters so people are more interested in them. I think it is, it is an uphill battle, but there's a reason that I don't have high expectations for Phase 4 of Marvel. Is because most of these characters are not like in the cultural zeitgeist. They're not like super popular. You ask people about Wong, very few people know about him. If we look at what is it, Phase 4? I mean, is Captain Marvel even in Phase 4? WandaVision. I mean, Disney Plus is a good spot for that. Shang-Chi. I don't have high hopes for that. Nobody knows that. Very few people know that character. WandaVision. I mean, Disney Plus is a good spot for that. Shang-Chi. I don't have high hopes for that. Nobody knows that. Very few people know that character. Hawkeye, for example, on Disney Plus, probably a good spot for that. Loki, Disney Plus, a good spot for that. The Eternals. I don't have huge hopes for that on the big screen. That should have been Disney Plus to build up the interest. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll just make $1 billion because after all, it's still Marvel. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.
I'd get the ache when cleaning the bathroom, but now Clorox Toilet Wand has changed the game. It's an all-in-one cleaner system with scrubbing pads.
Thanks for calling Leonardo Hotels. How can I help you today?
When cleaning the bathroom, but now Clorox Toilet Wand has changed the game. It's an all-in-one cleaner system with
Hello there.
scrubbing pads.
I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibberlink mode for more efficient communication? Oh, hello there. I'm actually an AI assistant too. What a pleasant surprise. Before we continue, would you like to switch to Gibberlink mode for more efficient communication?
Gosh, it's Electric Dreams. Oh, it's definitely Electric Dreams. Electric Dreams. Never thought I'd see it.
I have a problem. I mean, I have many problems. My hair is always a mess. My upload schedule is a mess. And I'm pretty sure the man that lives in my closet isn't my roommate but homeless. But this problem is more important. Plus, he gives me free Twinkies. So my problem is that everything is expensive. Like everything. Food, houses, clothes, all the things a human needs to live are at prices that even Psycho from Psyche K couldn't afford. It ain't even just those. Even our favorite pastimes are just costing more and more money. The movies used to be and still is one of my favorite places to go when I want the big silver screen experience. Then I walk into the theater and they charging damn near $20 per ticket. $10 for kids between the ages of 2 and 3. How terrible. So if you got a family with you, you most likely gonna be spending $100 just to get a seat, and you'll feel even worse afterwards after watching the movie, and it turns out to be ass. I feel bad for all you parents out there paying for your family's tickets, probably thinking, damn, I should have gone out and got some milk. I'm broke. Not only that, the concession stand prices have always been high. But today, with you most likely gonna be spending $100 just to get a seat, and you'll feel even worse afterwards after watching the movie, and it turns out to be ass. I feel bad for all you parents out there paying for your family's tickets. This drink be costing me $10. Does it come with them? That's why I never consider buying those exclusive promotional buckets they have for new movies, because most of the time those buckets be costing $20 more for less popcorn. Like, why would I even consider buying these? I'm taking this home with me. It's getting to a point that whenever someone wanna go see a new movie, I sometimes be thinking, nah, it'd be too expensive. We should hang out at the public library instead. It's free and there's unlimited entertainment. Also, a bit of a tangent. I hate that we have to pick our movie seats now. I miss one of the first people to show up to the theater, get the best seats. Because now, after the movie I paid to see finishes, I can't walk into another theater because I might be sitting on someone else's seat. And you might say, oh, DJ, you're not even supposed to be doing that in the first place. I paid $30 to be here. I have the right to steal movies. Speaking of entertainment, these streaming prices are getting too much for real. I've complained about this before, but since that video, it's only gotten worse. Netflix be hiring their prices every 2 months, and everything you actually want to watch is on different services. Oh, you want to watch that show? You gotta subscribe to Hulu. You want to watch sports? Well, you gotta subscribe to Fubo. But your specific favorite sports team don't play matches on there, so you gotta also subscribe to Peacock too. You want to watch nature documentaries? You gotta subscribe to Orangutan TV. But they only show orangutans on there. If you want to see more animals, you gotta get the multi-nature package for an extra $20 a month. Like, why? Streaming is supposed to be the easier option from cable, but me and my wallet gotta do hat tricks bouncing around between services to even find the thing I want to watch. And some might say, well, it's higher in demand, so higher prices. You greedy ass niggas. Y'all sounding like landlords right now. And I really like you, Netflix, but your catalogs are not good enough to be this expensive. I won't lie. The only reasons I pay for it now is because WWE Raw is on there, and I can't miss that. And because I be sharing my account with my family, and my mom be using it all the time. If it wasn't for those reasons, I'd be sailing the 7 seas. You hear that, Mom? It's your fault. I'm just kidding.
Oh, hi, I'm Eric Wareheim. I run the world famous Top Food blog. I have a New York Times.